This is Councilman Justin Brannan. It is 7 o'clock Tuesday, May 2nd, 2023. We are very excited to be coming to you live from City Hall, the right side of City Hall, talking tonight about funding our future, a conversation about the city budget. We've got a bunch of my colleagues here, a bunch of advocates in the particular spaces that we're going to talk about the executive budget and what's to come over the next basically 2 months of negotiation. I want to first obviously acknowledge who's joined us tonight on the Twitter space. Of my colleagues, we have Council Member Crystal Hudson, Council Member Selvena Brooks Powers, and I think that's everybody for now. Hopefully we'll be joined by some more later on. And we've also been joined by Allison, the Executive Director of LiveOn New York, Rachel, the Director from No Kid Hungry, and Michael, the VP of Government Relations at the YMCA of Greater New York. So thanks everyone for joining us tonight. Everyone that's listening, I'll speak slow so it gives you a little bit of time to find out about this and tune in. This is Councilman Justin Brannan. I'm a city councilman in Southern Brooklyn. I'm also lucky to chair the finance committee of the city council. And this time of year is very busy, not just for me, not just for the members of my committee, but for the entire council, because this is really where the rubber meets the road. Over the next 2 months, we will really negotiate and eventually pass and have a handshake on the city budget for FY24. And what does that look like? We've been saying, the Speaker Adams and I have been saying that this is really a critical moment for our city. Our city's future and our continued economic recovery really hinges on how we invest in New Yorkers and the essential services that they rely on to succeed. Right now, it's just an undeniable reality that our city agencies that are responsible for delivering the essential services to New Yorkers are struggling because of understaffing. We have about 20,000 vacancies in the city workforce. And unfortunately, this is undermining our recovery and the stability of our neighborhoods. We need these agencies to get staffed up with good people looking to work for the city, so the city can continue working for you. The council advanced a balanced, responsible budget proposal that accounted for the various potential budget risk and economic challenges. And the mayor most recently last week put out his executive budget. And now we will head into, starting next week, we head into a month of executive budget hearings. And then into June, by the end of June, and the end of FY23, the start of fiscal year 24, where we have to pass a budget that really delivers for everybody. And there is significant work ahead, we believe, to achieve that goal. But we head into negotiations with the administration as a willing partner, and we need to work with all of our stakeholders really to make this succeed. So I'm excited to have some of my colleagues on with us tonight to talk about what's important to them, what they're looking to see in this budget. When the council put out our preliminary budget response, that's really, look, people like to talk a lot about budgets, that it's more than just a list of itemized expenditures, right? A budget is really a moral document. A budget is, it's showing you what somebody cares about, right? You can tell me what you care about, but if I really want to know what you care about, I want to know what you spend your money on. Well, a city budget, a state budget, a federal budget, it's no different. If you want to know what a city cares about, take a look at what that city is spending its money on. And we want to make sure that the budget that we're putting forward and that the executive budget that we land on at the end of next month is a budget that really delivers for everybody and leaves nobody behind. So I'm excited to be joined by a colleague of mine, an old friend of mine from the borough of Brooklyn, who is also chair of the aging committee. And I wanted to give her some time to say hello and introduce herself, and talk about excuse me, talk about what she's looking to see in this budget, what she thinks is missing so far, where we're falling short. Certainly, I always believe if the city is making things good for kids and for seniors, and I think everybody else in the middle is ultimately going to be lifted up in the process. But Crystal Hudson is on with us and is going to tell us a little bit about what her focus is on this budget, what she's looking to see out of this budget. And I think we'll talk about some of the challenges we're seeing around food insecurity for many of our older New Yorkers. Crystal, you with us?
I am.
Cool.
Thank you for the intro.
Right on. Take it away.
Thank you for that. And I totally agree. If we're actually taking care of our most vulnerable, which are our youngest residents and our oldest residents, then everybody else will be just fine. And, I'm currently very concerned about the administration's insistence on stripping this agency, NYC Aging, their home delivered meals program, and all in-home services. We need to make sure that older adults have access to, and that's not what we're seeing in this budget. And so we've got some advocates on here with us. Allison Nickerson from LiveOn New York, and MJ Okma from Sage. I don't know if they want to chime in about how these proposed budget cuts, will impact their agencies. But I can tell you, I've been hearing from so many advocates and older adults as well, older adults directly who are food insecure and get their only meals from home delivered meal services, and also at older adult clubs that they visit. And so we want to make sure that we maintain funding for those programs. But I wanted to offer Allison and MJ an opportunity to speak about it as well.
I can certainly chime in, and thank you so much, Councilmember Hudson, for your advocacy on behalf of older adults, and for all the council members, Councilmember Brannan, who introduced these topics. I think from what we are seeing, LiveOn represents the community-based service system that helps older people thrive in the 5 boroughs, and what accounts to really an almost over $75 million cut if you take in the lack of a lack of investments because of the inflation that we're seeing. Right. And some agencies have lost food budgets going back to January. It is really, really troubling. And so many people, particularly homebound older adults, rely on these meals, right, as their only source of nutrition. And having just done a home delivered meal, I can tell you that system is really put together by string and amazing people who do amazing work and needs phenomenal investment. So yes, I so appreciate the work that you're doing to highlight this.
Awesome. Thank you. And thank you for your work. MJ, did you want to add anything?
Yeah, good evening, everyone. My name is MJ Okma with Sage. We provide services to LGBTQ plus elders and older New Yorkers living with HIV through our network of older adult centers across the city. And we're also the on-site service provider for New York's first LGBTQ plus affordable elder housing developments, which are located in Brooklyn and the Bronx. I think a major aspect here is that the way that we deliver services was transformed by the pandemic across the sector. At Sage, we're working closely with New York City Aging to make sure that we're able to maintain virtual, in-person, and hybrid services so as many people as possible can access programming. And we also started pop-up food pantries at our Sage centers with the understanding that elders need more than the meals that we can provide on site. So the reality is that COVID deeply impacted older New Yorkers, and it continues to do so. It created more need and different needs in our community, and I think it's a fallacy to think that we can do more with less in this budget.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you both for sharing that. I want to put this issue into a little bit more context by providing some statistics. But with regards to older New Yorkers who receive SNAP benefits or food stamps, the city council estimates that 1 in 4 older New Yorkers uses SNAP benefits. And in New York, that monthly, that number is almost 400,000, 368,000 and some change from 2022. And advocates estimate that there are almost an additional 200,000 older adults in New York State that might be eligible for SNAP benefits but aren't receiving those benefits. And that could be a number of reasons, but mostly just people don't know that they're eligible, or they don't know about the program. And the population of older adults is going to increase in the city by 40% by 2040. So just in the next 15 years or so, we're going to see a huge influx in the older adult population. And if we're not investing in the needs of older adults now, then we're going to have a real issue, over the next 5, 10, 15 years as that population continues to increase.
Councilmember Hudson, can I chime in for a second?
Of course.
I think what you're saying is so right on. And, we see all across the 5 boroughs that older people are contributing so much to mentoring young kids, contributing, they buy goods and services locally. They're contributing to the economy. 80% of people who voted in the last election in the Bronx were over the age of 60. And yet we know so many people have so many difficulties accessing what they need, both because, they are new. Older immigrants are a huge amount of older people in the city. And they just...
49.5% to be exact. So about 50% of older New Yorkers age 65 and over are foreign born.
Yeah, it's really hard for so many people. And I often think that there's some clear issues when people are sitting at their kitchen table and figuring out, have their head in their hands, and it's childcare, their job, the economy, right? And elder care is one of those issues. And we have to start talking about that for ourselves and for people, for our loved ones. And the good news is that there is a service system that we can invest in, but it needs significant investment and certainly no cuts to the magnitude that the mayor has presented.
Right on. Absolutely.
Yeah, this is Justin. I would say what's very concerning to us, obviously, is when we start hearing from constituents about the real world impact that a lot of these cuts are having or what they would have. And that really puts... we're talking about human beings, and these aren't just numbers on a page, right? And this is all, these are funds and programs, that investments that we're fighting for, because we know the impact that it has, certainly as we're still, digging our way out of a global pandemic. And I think certainly, what the advocates certainly can attest to is the amazing work that so many of our nonprofits do to help bridge that gap. But it's important that gap doesn't get so wide that we're losing people. So it's certainly something that's not lost on the city council. The absolutely vital, a crucial role that our nonprofit organizations play in this entire ecosystem. So I wanted to, I don't think she's on. Okay. I was going to kick it over to Selvena, but I don't see her. Yeah, I mean, look, so what we're looking at right now is that despite adjustments to the most recently proposed PEG, which is a program to eliminate the gap, PEG, PEG. You hear that term a lot, unfortunately. This is the third one that we're dealing with. The current executive budget still includes PEGs totaling $1.6 billion, and it maintains all other previously enacted and proposed PEGs totaling over $4 billion in FY23 and 24. So, you're talking about cuts to our libraries. You're talking about cuts to agencies that deliver essential services and programs that deliver solutions to some of the city's most pressing challenges. And if we're not making the investments that we need, so I think ultimately what we need is a responsible budget that is sober about the future, is not in denial about there might be some some rocky roads ahead, but also that the city economy has proven to be durable. We have managed to regain 99% of the jobs that we lost during COVID in New York City. That was not supposed to happen until sometime next year, 2024. And we're already there now in May of 2023, that we're about 99% of the jobs we lost during COVID, we've recovered. So the economy has proven that it's durable and the money is there. But it has to be invested wisely. And obviously we have to make sure we're still saving for a rainy day, to make sure that we're continuing to maintain our record historic reserves, that we have over $8 billion in reserves. So I want to kick it now to our Deputy Speaker, Diana Ayala, if she is on. Diana, you there?
I am on.
All right. Diana, you want to just say hello and talk whatever you want to talk about.
So first of all, I want to say that I really love this platform, and I love the idea that we have an opportunity to really speak to the people and to kind of have them share our insight on this process with which is usually done in closed doors, and unless you're interested in attending one of the hearings, you wouldn't be able to necessarily keep tabs on what's happening. But this year, obviously, it's no secret that there's a lot of concerns around the staffing shortages. I'm the chair of the General Welfare Committee, and heading that committee has been quite difficult because we've seen a lot of challenges. Right, we have a growing community of asylum seekers. We have some of the highest number of unsheltered New Yorkers in the history of New York City. We have an abundant and growing number of applications for SNAP benefits that are not being processed. We have families that have received vouchers for city fests that are not being paid. Just today, we were hearing about, I read about a story of, families that are on HRA that have their belongings in storage, whose storage are not being paid by HRA, who've, lost their their furniture, their clothing, whatever artifacts they were trying to store for a better day. And that, obviously is, this is very difficult. It's a very difficult time. We have the resources and we have funding, but we're not necessarily funding our city agencies in a way that allows them to be competitive, that allows them to be, able to retain staff. That's been a huge, huge challenge. We have been partnering with ECAS. As a matter of fact, this Saturday I have a hiring hall with them in the South Bronx. The information is on my Facebook page, on my Twitter, and on Instagram if you're interested. But these are really important hiring halls because we are, really at a state where people are not getting access to safety net programs because we don't have the personnel to adequately process the necessary applications. And, that for me is alarming. It's really alarming.
Yeah. I was speaking with someone today talking about affordable housing, and that he has a unit, he owns a building, he has a unit that's an affordable studio, and he was telling me about how long it's going to take to get someone to take that vacant apartment because of delays at whether it's HPD or DOB or whatever it is. And this is real world stuff, right? The fact that we've got so many vacancies in these city agencies is having a direct impact on the delivery of these services for folks. And, we, like I said, the council, we're still very concerned with these pegs, but equally concerned with the fact that there are 20,000 jobs available in the city of New York right now. And many of these agencies are hobbled by these vacancies. And we're hearing from our constituents of the very real life impact that these vacancies have created. So because you have to think about, for all the great programs that the city has, or that the city is proposing, or that you wish the city could propose, or you hope the city proposes one day. There's people that have to do that work on the back end to actually make those connections, to connect New Yorkers with those services. So whether it's from 3K to CUNY, from rental vouchers to cleaning the streets, from filling potholes to funding the libraries, all of that stuff takes back end work at these agencies that sometimes you don't think about these folks. But if these positions aren't filled, it creates a serious problem. So
That's
that
right.
is
And I also want to add to that, Justin, that the idea of filling the gap, right, in PEDS with vacant positions in the city agencies is also cause for concern, because if you have 10 vacancies and we're eliminating those 10 vacancies as part of the PED to create a cost savings, but we needed those 10 jobs in order to be able to get the work done, then it's just really counterproductive, and it doesn't work, right? It doesn't work. So we need a better system, and I'm really excited about getting I guess next week we kick off the budget season with the general welfare committee, and really really excited to hear from people from the community and from the city agencies on how they're planning to address this.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. That's absolutely right. Look, I think, at the end of the day, we all understand that we're talking about taxpayer dollars here. We're talking about, a finite amount of money, and we have to be smart with how we invest this money or how we save this money. And we're all for efficient and effective use of funds, and we want an effective and efficient government. But we don't believe, and we believe in efficiency. We just don't think there's efficiency when you've got 20,000 vacancies in these city agencies, and we're hearing directly from constituents that there's a real delay in services. That's obviously going to be a serious priority for us. So I wanted to kick it back to Councilmember Hudson, talk a little bit about aging in place and what that means and why that's so important, and maybe talk a little bit about the legislation that's on the table that is trying to make this more of a reality, and what you think we should do in this budget to help address it.
Absolutely. So aging in place is, basically making it possible for all of us to get older and remain in our homes and in our communities where we have support systems and loved ones, and generally where we want to be. We are, all getting older, and I always say if we're lucky, then we will do so here in New York City, and the city that we love, and we just don't do enough really to make it as easy as possible for folks to grow older. And so the legislative package that I have, which is called Age in Place NYC, really spans across every issue, and that's because every issue is an older adult issue, but every issue from housing to healthcare to older adult centers and everything in between, technology. And it's a package of 10 bills. One of the bills, we talked earlier about the amount of foreign-born older New Yorkers that we have here in the city. And one of the bills is to ensure that we have culturally competent and culturally relevant services and meals and programs at our older adult clubs, making sure that things are, services and programs are being provided in language, in people's native language, making sure that we're being deliberate in actually closing the digital divide. That is all what aging in place is about, really.
Very cool. Very important, especially in my district where we have what they call a NORC, right? Naturally occurring retirement community.
Right.
We have to do everything we can for our seniors. And I think, the proof is in the pudding. And this is where all the things we say have to come alive and come to reality in this budget.
Absolutely.
I want to bring in Rachel from No Kid Hungry to talk a little bit. Earlier, Deputy Speaker Ayala was discussing a little bit about HRA and how they're struggling to process food stamps in a timely fashion. So could you speak a little bit about how you see those delays directly impacting New Yorkers and how it's further exacerbating food insecurity?
Absolutely. Thank you, member. Thank you, Council Member Brannan. This is Rachel Sabella. I serve as the director of the No Kid Hungry campaign for Share Our Strength, and our work really is addressing childhood hunger and poverty. Last month, I had the privilege of participating in a hearing co-chaired by Council members Ayala and Hudson that covered this issue. And what we heard from HRA was heartbreaking. Last month, they said that 49.9% of SNAP applications were processed on time. This was as of February. It was announced at a hearing in April. When you hear 49%, that's unacceptable. But that's also up from 19.2% in December. That meant as of December, only 1 in 5 people who were applying for SNAP in New York City were getting their applications processed on time. That meant others weren't getting the dollars that their families needed to put food on the table. That meant people that probably were already feeling some distrust of government. And we find a lot when people apply for SNAP, some of them really feel the stigma, they're ashamed, but they also know that sometimes that's the best option for their families. That hurts them. That makes them think, well, this is never going to help me, and what can I do? So it's not only impacting what people can eat, but it's also impacting them mentally. And this is something we're glad to see that HRA has made some improvements. Part of me thinks that that's happened because of the push that council has made about filling these jobs and ensuring applications are processed more. But we've got to do a lot better on this to help those facing food insecurity right now.
Thank you, Rachel. Let's talk about the programs like Community Food Connection, which the council has called for more investment in our preliminary budget response. Could you talk about a little bit how critical it is to increase baseline funding for programs like that?
You said my favorite word that I love to hear in budget, baselined. I'm sure every advocate
Baseline's a good word.
want to hear the word baselined. Those of you listening, baseline means those dollars are going in the baseline budget, and we don't have to fight every single year to have that added. Think about what our emergency food providers, our heroes on the ground, have done since the start of the pandemic. I had the privilege of working from home. They did not. They have been out there. They have been stretching dollars, not knowing what funds are going to come in. And sometimes it's a last minute influx. People aren't able to plan, but getting increased baseline dollars, being able to ensure that it's fresh food going into communities, ensuring that, again, people can plan, they know the resources that are coming, also that we can get culturally sensitive food, ensuring people have the food that they're used to that allows them to treat their cultures with respect. Nothing angers me more than we're in conversations and someone says, oh, and I'm using air quotes, if you could see me, they're poor, we can just give them a can of food. That's not what New York stands for. We want to give people the food that treats them with dignity, to give them those services. And, I hope it's okay. I just want to add here, we released a poll yesterday of New Yorkers talking about hunger. And what we saw was devastating. We had that 73% of New Yorkers are reporting that it's harder to afford groceries this time right now as opposed to the same time last year. We also saw how it impacting the mental health of New Yorkers, that when parents don't know, caregivers don't know where they're going to get that food for their families, the amount of stress, anxiety, and depression that it leads to. And we also found in our poll that that's more likely to impact people of color. So when we can put baseline dollars into programs like the Community Food Connection, when we put more people on the ground to help people enroll in SNAP, we're directly addressing those issues. We're helping address food insecurity, giving families regular access to meals, but also helping with their mental health.
Absolutely. Thank you, Rachel. That's very important stuff. And I think it's important to, once again, put a human face to really what we're fighting for here. These aren't just numbers on a page. This is really a value statement, a moral document, a list of the things that the council cares about and feels important that needs to be prioritized. That's what a budget is. A budget is really a moral document. And if you want to know what someone cares about, tell me what they spend their money on. And that's what we go into these executive budget hearings thinking about. I want to bring in my old friend Michael from the WMCA and talk a little bit about 3K. 3K has certainly been a very, very important hot topic of conversation for this council. We've held 2 oversight hearings on it so far. In our preliminary budget response, we called for a $15 million pilot to convert 1,000 school year seats to extended year seats. And that was based on what we were hearing from working families, working parents out there of what they wanted, that they need that extended day, extended year program, and trying to figure out a way that, with the administration telling us there are 30,000 vacant 3K seats. Michael, how do you see this potential pilot meeting some of the demand in the city right now?
So, Chair Brannan, yes, it's great to be here talking to you. We go back, though I have one correction to make. I'm not from the MCA. It's the YMCA. Come on, it's the song. Everyone knows the YMCA.
YMCA. Got it.
But no, and definitely appreciate you creating the space for us to talk about the budget and to talk about the needs. And you're right on. A budget is a moral document, and we are in a moment where we are still recovering from the pandemic. So, we saw during lockdown and reopening, families' work schedules didn't work or align with childcare and school hours. Like you're working longer hours than what a child is receiving in terms of childcare. But there was an outcry. We thought that I thought we were going to have a meaningful discussion around how do we create affordable childcare, and we were getting there. We were going to expand 3K, but then the mayor back in November, in his November plan, for those of you out there, it's a mid-year budget adjustment that the city has to do. He eliminated the 3K expansion, so that was devastating, and that is a tremendous loss. And for the fact that there is this perception that not all of the existing slots are being utilized is a cause for us to not expand. There have been barriers, and advocates at the past hearings have talked about those barriers. So to see and hear the commitment from the council in the preliminary budget response, calling for this pilot program of $15 million, you are really putting your commitment towards working families. Earlier today, the Citizens Committee for Children released a report that actually talks to the state of the system right now and what parents' needs are. And one of those needs are extended day, extended year care. Like, we need to give parents options, families options. Families do not only need care during a school hour day of 8 to 2. Families need more time beyond that. That is how we get families back into the workforce. That's how we get our children on a path to success. So yes, I think this is a great idea, and we love the fact that that the council is pushing for this.
Michael, talk a little bit about what do you think? Could it be possible that there are that many vacant seats? It feels like the only way that that's possible, that there are 30,000 vacant 3K seats, would be if people don't know that they exist.
So there are multiple reasons why there are an underutilization. Sort of that's the term that the administration has been using, and it is a multitude of factors that people don't know that there's this opportunity. One is, and I think most folks here will remember back when the universal pre-K system was rolled out, 4K, services for 4-year-olds. It was all over the place. It was a tremendous media campaign for that in a multitude of languages. Unfortunately, we didn't see that with the rollout of 3K. There have been advertisements, there have been calls made, but not to the same level that it was done for universal pre-K. Another thing is language access. Not everything was done to promote 3K in a language accessible to many of our families' needs. Those are some of the barriers to actually knowing the system exists. And then the other barrier is that, where are these slots? Where are they in places where families end up going to work, or is it in their neighborhood where they live? It didn't seem like there was an actual thought process, a strategy done to where the slots would be assigned and to actually get full utilization out of it. So, I think to your point earlier, we need to do some sort of promotion around this and really talk about it. I don't think we're talking about these slots enough and in enough languages so families are aware of this.
Those are all good points, Mike. I guess a little bit more broadly, what are some issues that YMCA thinks need to be addressed with our 3K system, and more broadly, the city early childhood education system?
And so really right now, that's outside of the need for more flexibility in slots. Yes, we do need school day, school year, hour slots. We also do need extended day, extended year slots. But providers also need to get paid on time. Unfortunately, we're not getting paid in a timely manner. YMCA, like many others, haven't received full payment for fiscal year 22. So that's last school year. We're in the process right now of trying to get payments for the current school year. So those issues really frustrate the ability to provide services. And those payment delays put people at solvency risks, unfortunately. And we don't ever want to see a classroom close down because we couldn't pay a teacher. But unfortunately, some providers are getting to that point in time. And that's to no fault of those providers. It is just that we are seeing these payment delays, which the administration tried to work on and has prioritized to clear through. But there needs to be a system to not allow this to happen again. We were caught off guard, I guess, but we need to move forward and actually establish a system that doesn't create these backlogs of payment. And the other thing that needs to be done to really fix the system is contracted providers are limited to our budget that we negotiate with the city. So it's whatever the city tells us they're going to pay for this, which also then limits how much we're able to pay for our teachers and our support staff. We're calling for pay parity. We want our 3K teachers, our 4K teachers, our 3K support staff, and pre-K support staff to receive what their counterparts are receiving through the DOE. They're doing the exact same work, but at a lower pay scale. And that's not fair. So the mayor stated that his priority is to look out for the workforce. Well, here's a workforce that needs to be looked after. So those are the points that we need to really fix the system. And it seems like it's a no-brainer. If we invest in the system, we're setting up our kids and families to successes.
That's right. No, those are all great points, Michael. I mean, look, I don't want to keep, I think we all want COVID to be as far in our rearview mirror as possible. But the fact is the pandemic has really laid bare, economic, racial, and structural inequities that are just too stark to ever be ignored again. And I think most of these longstanding disparities existed long before COVID, but it's on us to make sure that they don't exist after. Like, that's on us to fix. And I think one of the most glaring is really that not just the city, that the nation's really childcare crisis and how early childhood education fits in there. I think overall the school day schedule that dictates most of modern American K-12 life is really a relic of a bygone Leave It to Beaver era, with really outdated family norms, when a household with two working parents was rare for most white and middle class families. But I think, poor families of color always had working parents, and often mom was working to care for the children of other middle class families. So not only are a lot of these norms totally archaic, but they're inherently exclusionary and discriminatory. And I think that's on us to fix as well. So I want to start wrapping it up. This was our maiden voyage of the Twitter space for the city council. I obviously want to shout out our speaker, Adrian Adams, for allowing us to do this and giving us the space to have these discussions and come directly into your earbuds. I want to just invite now Deputy Speaker Ayala or Council Member Hudson, if you have any closing remarks, and I want to let the advocates as well, if they'd like to chime in before we close it down for the night.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing that I would add is, again, a reminder that budget hearings kick off next week, and we will be having one close to every single day for the month of May. And, members of the public are welcome to come in and share their experiences, their concerns with the body at the end of that process. So, but again, thank you for those of you that were listening today. Thank you so much. I think this is a very unique opportunity again to engage, and I look forward to doing more of these.
Yeah, that Deputy Speaker Ayala, this is Justin again. That's a good point. Just everyone that's listening, what Speaker Adams does is we have a full day at the very end of a month. We have a month of May is basically every day we'll be having an executive budget hearing. But what we do is we carve out a full day. So the last thing that we hear before we really go into negotiations are your voices, are the voices of the public. So the final day of budget hearings will be 100% focused on testimony from the public. So that is the day that we encourage the public to testify. It's a full day. However many people, last year, I think it was about 10, 11 hours that we did. If we go 12, 13, 14 hours, I got nowhere to go. This is my job. I'm happy to be there, happy to hear from the public. That's what it's all about. But we do a whole day of budget hearings just on public testimony, which is super important to us. So make sure on May 24th, that'll be the last day. May 24th will be the last day of budget hearings. That's the day that the public can come and testify. The entire day is earmarked for the public. Crystal, do you want to say something?
Yeah, just as a wrap up. First, I just want to thank you for hosting this, and also Speaker Adams for putting this together and organizing it and bringing us council members here along with our advocates, our amazing advocates. What we're fighting for in the budget and also legislatively as far as older New Yorkers are concerned really, I think, is related to the culture shift that we need to see in New York. And really, it's how we value older New Yorkers and older folks in general who have made our communities and our neighborhoods what they are, the wonderful, vibrant, diverse places that we all want to be in. And, the message that we send to them, once they've put in all their time and all their work in raising all of us, contributing, working hard, and what we say to them is, you don't really matter anymore. We've taken everything from you, and now we've got nothing left for you. And so I really want to encourage people and challenge people to shift the way you all think about older adults and older New Yorkers, and make sure that we're prioritizing them in what we think about when we think about our future.
Thank you, Councilmember Hudson. I want to invite any of the advocates, MJ or Allison, Rachel, Michael, if you want to give some last words, just jump in.
This is Rachel. I'll jump in very quickly. I want to say thank you, Councilmember Brannan. Thank you, Councilmember Hudson. Special thank you to Speaker Adams, who has been with us from the breakfast in the classroom fight to getting baseline dollars for EFAP. And a special thank you to Chair of the General Welfare Committee, Deputy Speaker Ayala. You are fighting so hard. We are so grateful. I want to remind everybody that 1 in 4 children in New York City face food insecurity. We heard so much today about a budget being an opportunity to show what you value, where your morals are. And we want to make sure that every child in New York City that doesn't know where their next meal is coming from knows that our elected officials, knows that our city of New York, our city government is fighting to give them regular access to meals, to ensure that they are growing strong, that they are thriving and helping our great city grow stronger. So we look forward to being in this budget battle with you and helping families put on the food on the table. But thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Rachel. MJ?
Yeah, thank you so much. I think one thing I want to highlight, just going back to the core topic of vacancy rates and underfunding, are what cases are most likely to fall through the cracks here. For example, we have pre-pandemic data that shows 1/3 of LGBTQ plus elders live below 200% of the federal poverty level, with poverty rates much higher for LGBTQ elders of color and bisexual and transgender older New Yorkers. At the same time, they're often distrustful of support services due to a history of compounding discrimination. And in cases like this, trust building is essential to connecting communities that have faced a lifetime of systemic discrimination and stigma to the services that they need. But that trust building takes resources and a lot of intentional work. And I think that's a major focal point on the work that we have ahead of us in this budget. So I wanted to thank everyone so much for hosting this space, and for the New York City Council members and council staff for their work, both on this important discussion tonight, but also on the budget and your work at the council as a whole.
Thank you, MJ. Allison?
Thank you so much. Thank you for hosting this. We're so thankful for the entire council's advocacy, and especially Councilmember Crystal Hudson for her constant championing of these issues. I just want to quick respond to something Michael brought up, which is the way that we fund the human service sector. It's really important to us in LiveOn, but also at the aging sector, that we don't have people age into poverty. So I would also like to lift up the COLA for human service workers, because it is just so important that the people who are on the grounds doing this work day in and day out don't age themselves into a situation where they also cannot afford rent and food and medication. But I'm so thankful to you all for hosting this, and we're committed to moving this city forward. And that includes investing in places where our values lie and making sure that people can thrive as they age.
Thank you, Allison. Michael?
Yeah. So thank you, Chair Brannan. Thank you, Council Member, that are here with us today. Councilmember Hudson, Councilmember Ayala. And I also want to shout out to who's not here, Councilmember Rita Joseph, who chairs the Education Committee and who's been a staunch advocate for really fighting to put early childhood and education top of mind. And, it is great to hear that the council is with us and we are with you on this fight. And Allison, thank you for lifting up that piece about the COLA, because, we need a strong workforce, and the way to get that is for helping everybody have living wages, and a COLA will get us a little closer to that. And early childhood education helps put our children on the right path for success as they grow and become adults and contribute to a great city. So again, thank you all for being here and listening to us. And we are here with the council for this fight ahead.
Thank you so much, Michael. So look, this is really a critical moment for our city. I really do believe, and the speaker believes, that our future and the continued economic recovery of this city hinges on what we do in this upcoming budget. Sound fiscal stewardship means focusing budget priorities where they matter most. And as I often like to say, hardworking taxpayers measure the return on their investment through the efficient delivery of essential government services, and rightfully so. So that's why a budget isn't just an itemized list of expenditures. It's really a moral document. And this council really wants to show the city what we care about, and that we're fighting for everybody. We're trying to lift up all New Yorkers and make sure that no one gets left behind, and that the people that are normally in the back of the room get brought to the front and get raised up. And that's what the next month and a half is going to be spent on, trying to land this plane and deliver a budget that really works for everybody. So we need you in this fight. We want to make sure your voices are heard. Make sure you join us. You can come to any of the hearings if you want to hang out with us all day. We'll be there. But May 24th is really the day for public testimony. It's a full day for public testimony. So make sure, if you can't make any of the other days, come on May 24th to make your voice heard. I want to thank all the council staff behind the scenes that made this maiden voyage of our Twitter Spaces possible, and of course, thank Speaker Adams for giving us the space tonight. And hopefully, we'll do it again soon. So, thanks everyone for hanging out with us, and we will talk to you again very, very soon. Thank you so much. Have a great night.